What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all doing well. Now, today I've got for you just one story, but it is absolutely shocking. Don't get me wrong, we see some pretty weird things happen in Reddit posts and some pretty crazy people, but I genuinely don't think it's too far-fetched to say that what this woman does in this story is right up there with some of the weirdest and most dangerous behavior that I've ever seen. The title of this one explains everything, so without further ado, let's get into it. Make sure you are subscribed to my channel if you are new. Here we go. My roommate is trying to sublease her room to someone I have a restraining order against. Please help. This was originally posted in June of 2014. When I, a 22-year-old woman, was a freshman in college, a guy named Pete, who was 21, began harassing me to date him. I refused over and over again, and it ended with him ripping my shirt off at a party to try to touch my breasts. I filed a police report, and Pete was found guilty of assault. I have a 1,000 feet restraining order against Pete. Fast forward to this week, and my roommate, Shelly, a 21-year-old girl, needs a subletter to take over her while she studies abroad for the summer. She didn't know she was leaving until 2 weeks ago, and she's been looking for someone to take over since then. She found Pete on Craigslist and asked me if I approved. I showed her my court documents, but Shelly claims that she can't find anyone else to take over and that I will have to deal with it. We got into a heated argument and she just left the apartment. This morning, Shelly texted me that Pete will be moving his stuff into the apartment today. I called the police, but Pete hasn't showed up yet, so they can't do anything. Shelly also says she will be staying for the remainder of the week. The lease says that she can move whoever she wants in without my permission, and the same goes for me, but there's still the issue of the restraining order. The landlord told me that it was between Shelly and me to figure out. We both have 1-year leases that expire in December with the same terms. Okay, let's jump straight into the comments here. Somebody said, "Is Pete aware that you're the person he'll be sharing the apartment with? You might want to let him know that you'll be calling the police if he sets foot in the place." OP replied, "Pete is aware that I'm the roommate because Shelly posted the ad with a photo of us both. Without my permission. I already promised that I'd be calling the police, but Shelly is locked in her room and refuses to listen to me. I'm chilling by the door with 911 already pre-dialed." Somebody else says, "I agree with the consensus of calling the police the moment he arrives. Has he actually signed anything, like a sublet agreement? If so, he'll probably be on the hook to pay for an apartment he can't legally step in. Also, I'm not a lawyer, but I can't imagine that attempting to enter a living arrangement with a person holding a restraining order doesn't negate the restraining order. The first question I would ask Pete if I were a cop or judge is, why did you think that you could live there without violating the order?" OP says to this that Shelly claims that Pete has already paid her for all 3 months in advance and that he signed a contract with her. I told her that her contract does not override my restraining order, but she basically put her hands over her ears to drown out what I was saying. I plan on calling the cops the moment I see his car pull up, which is of course less than 1,000 feet. Shelly will still be here for the rest of the week, so I'm afraid this will escalate. Okay, let's get straight into the update then. This was posted 5 days later. "Hi everyone, thanks for reading this update. I've added some extra details at the beginning to better explain what happened. Things took some M. Night Shyamalan twists. Details. Shelly and I were not close friends. We were simply roommates with our own separate bedrooms and a connecting kitchen and living space. I've only known her since last December when we originally signed our leases. We've hung out, but the only real connection we had is that she likes anime in Japan and that I am Asian. The Craigslist ad that Shelly posted didn't have a photo. It turns out that she'd used a generic photo of the two of us in an ad on our college's Facebook page, but Shelly took it down before I got a chance to take a screenshot." Okay, so here is the actual update. After I made my Reddit post, Shelly was locked in her room for 3 hours. I tried to talk to her, but she wouldn't come out of the room. She left her room to get food and just walked past me as if I didn't exist. Everyone who I called told me that until Pete actually showed up, no crime was being committed, so I couldn't report it until then. I just sat by the door and window watching for Pete's car. This continued until early Saturday morning when Shelly woke up for her morning jog. I was still on the lookout for Pete's car. I stayed up all night on the couch. Shelly tried to sneak out past me, but I woke up and blocked the door. I needed an explanation for why I was being forced to stay up all night waiting to call the police on Pete when she knew that I had a restraining order against him. Shelley's explanation was that the restraining order doesn't matter to her, that she's dealt with, quote, unreasonable people like me before, and that she's never listened to any restraining order before now, so why should she just for me? The more I listened, the sicker I felt. Shelley basically admitted to me that she is a C-word. I told Shelley that she was a real piece of work and that I was going to maintain my watch for Pete and that I'd contemplate taking legal action. She told me that whether I liked it or not, she was done looking for subletters and that it was my problem. I told her to get out and go for her jog, and she left and came back a bit later and locked herself in her room again. Sometime around noon, I'd accidentally fallen asleep because I'd been awake for 36 plus hours at that point. I woke up and I saw Pete helping Shelley move her stuff into her car. I didn't see him in the apartment, but he was helping her in the parking lot. I immediately locked them both out and called the police. Shelley and Pete came to the door again, and when Pete saw it was locked, and when he saw me watching from the window, he blew up at Shelley. He started to ask her why I was in the apartment and why Shelley didn't tell him that I was the roommate. He demanded his money back, and I could hear them screaming at each other through the door. Wow, you know what? All this time reading this, I genuinely believed that Pete knew that OP was living there, somehow. Maybe it was the photo that turns out actually wasn't posted on the Craigslist ad, but I just thought that this was Pete's way of getting back into OP's life and breaking the law, breaking the restraining order. But maybe that isn't true. The cops showed up and handcuffed Pete and Shelley. I told them my story, and Pete said he had text messages and emails to back himself up. The cops checked his phone and saw texts from Shelley saying along the lines that her roommate wouldn't care about XYZ because he was a chill guy. Pete had posted his own ad looking for a male roommate. That's right, Shelley is a liar too. The cops released Pete because he had proof that he didn't know it was me. I'm okay with this because I saw the emails and texts too. Shelley was charged with disorderly conduct and her mum came to get her. Sunday evening, Shelley and her mum come back to the apartment to finish packing for her study abroad. Shelley made some snide remarks about me definitely going roommate hunting to find her a subletter as I said I would. I ignored her. Shelley left for her plane this morning. You know the good thing about separate leases? I'm only liable for my rent, not hers. So I'm going to sit on my butt for the rest of the summer while she gets evicted for lack of rent payment. There we go, that is it for the story. A crazy one. Let's get into some final comments. Somebody said, it sounds like a terrible situation all round, but it also does genuinely sound like Pete didn't know. And now that he does, he won't be back to bother you. Since you're on separate leases, you should hopefully not have anything to worry about legally or financially. Let Shelley deal with those issues herself. She brought them on herself. A quick question. If she does fail to pay, could you in any way get kicked out, or are you pretty much in the clear? Either way, good luck. Your roommate is immature and deserves the consequences of whatever happens to her in this situation. And OP replied to this, our leases explicitly say that we are only liable for our individual portion of the rent, so I am in the clear. And Pete really didn't know about me being there. That is how much of a female dog Shelley is to let a man get arrested over something so stupid. And thanks. Somebody else said, I mean, what did she think was going to happen? On top of the shameless buttholery, Shelley sounds like she's missing a few marbles. OP said, I think that what happened was that Shelley was focused only on going abroad and wasn't focused on her own actions. She couldn't find anyone, so as soon as she found someone, she thought, problem solved, and ignored the problems until I called the police. I mean, yeah, that's one thing, and I'm sure it's very annoying to have to find another subletter when you've already found one, but given that your current roommate has a restraining order against the new subletter, you think this person would say, okay, fine, I'll put the effort in to find a new one rather than say, no, you know what, you can just deal with this. And finally, OP also left this comment. I wish that Shelley could have gotten charged with more, but she started bawling her eyes out to the police officer, and he went easy on her because she looked so young. To me, it's just another sign that she's an awful person because she was manipulating the cops. The lease states explicitly that I'm not liable for her rent, and even if she tries to sue me, it's my word against hers, and I'm confident I'd win that legal battle. Pete is staying as far away from it as he can, and he apologized to me and is trying to get his deposit back from her. And there we go, that is the end of that one. As I said, right at the top, in the introduction, I do genuinely believe that what Shelley has done and her actions in this story are right up there with some of the strangest and yeah, just downright ridiculous I've ever seen in a story on Reddit before. It's just so crazy to me that she wouldn't sort of understand how dangerous what she's doing is. Can't she put herself in your position, OP, and think, oh my goodness, what if I was in her shoes and she was doing this to me? How, first of all, dangerous would that be? But then, like, imagine the anxiety that you're putting on somebody, just like the mental struggle, not sleeping for that long, the fear. It is ridiculous. It just is ridiculous. I can't think of another word to describe it. I do think that OP summed it up pretty well by saying, Shelley basically admitted to me that she is a C word. Yes, that is what she is. And I understand the fact that you are just roommates, and being roommates doesn't mean you have to be best friends. But still, as one young woman to another, doing this is crazy. I also really actually genuinely do feel pretty bad for Pete. I mean, Pete is clearly a terrible person as well, but if we're sort of parking that in the past and saying that maybe he's improved as a person after that and, you know, served his time or whatever he's done, he's had his punishment, for this now to happen and him to be arrested again for doing something that he didn't even know was going on, for being within 1,000 feet of you and having no idea, that's also a terrible thing to do. Like, I'm glad that Pete wasn't stalking OP, but also I feel bad for him genuinely a little bit, because I was sure that he was going to be a conspirator somehow. It's actually pretty crazy that he just happened to get dragged into this, and yeah, the coincidence there. But maybe there aren't that many apartments in this area, who knows, but unbelievable. Now, one final thing that I do want to bring up, that I just noticed whilst reading that, which is very, very strange, was that she said, well, OP said in the post, she's never listened to any restraining order before now, so why should she just for me? Like, what does she mean by that? Is that actually true, first of all? Secondly, does that mean that she's had a restraining order put on her before and she hasn't listened to it and she's gone against that? I don't know. But anyway, OP actually replied to this saying, same thing I thought when she said that. I've got no clue what it means because I wasn't going to argue with her about it at the time. But Pete was definitely 100% not trying to stalk me. She just lied to him and wouldn't back down once she found out about the restraining order. So who knows? Maybe Shelley didn't actually know what a restraining order was, because surely you wouldn't legitimately say, I've never listened to a restraining order before. Why would I now, knowing what a restraining order is? It just doesn't make any sense. But then not much of what she did in this story does. I don't know. Help me out in the comments down below, guys. What do you think about this one? Is Shelley just brain dead? Or did she not really care, knew that she was leaving the country and just wanted the money and not to be evicted? Who knows? I'm going to lean more towards the former, to be quite frank. Anyway, that is going to do it. Thanks for watching and listening. Hope you enjoyed it. Crazy story. Get your comments in below as always, and I'll catch you on the next one.